I stood at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, watching Ethan holding Sophia's hand as they walked toward the marriage registration office. 3 years ago, he held my hand in the same way. But today, what they faced was not blessings, but the police waiting at the door. "Ethan, you are suspected of commercial fraud. Please come with us." The wedding venue was brilliantly lit with guests filling the hall. I wore a decent black dress, sitting in the last row, quietly watching the couple on stage. The groom Ethan was in a sharp white suit, the bride Sophia in a wedding dress worth 800,000 yuan, sharing a passionate kiss as applause thundered from below. "Grace, why are you here?" A surprised voice came from beside me. It was Ethan's assistant, Kevin. Her face showed some panic, probably not expecting me to appear here. I smiled faintly. "Isn't it normal to attend my ex-husband's wedding?" Kevin swallowed, "But Ethan said you've gone abroad. Is that so?" I toyed with the champagne glass in my hand. "It seems he's quite concerned about my whereabouts." On stage, the MC was delivering sentimental words. Things like true love finally uniting, overcoming hardships to be together. It made me want to laugh. Hardships? Was there hardship me, the original wife? 3 years ago, Ethan and I held our wedding in this same hotel. At that time, Sophia was still abroad, and Ethan told me he had completely forgotten his first love and would love me well for a lifetime. I believed him. After marriage, I quit my job to focus on being his supportive wife. The Ning family's business required a public image, so I learned various social etiquettes and accompanied him to numerous business events. I thought we would live lovingly like this forever. Until half a year ago, when Sophia returned to the country. That day, I left work early to surprise Ethan at home. Instead, the surprise turned into a shock. I saw my husband embracing his white moonlight in our own home. "Ethan, I'm back," Sophia said coquettishly. "Sophia, I've been waiting for you for so long." Ethan's voice was so gentle it felt unfamiliar to me. I stood at the door, holding the groceries I had just bought, suddenly feeling like a joke. At that moment, I didn't rush in to question them, nor did I become hysterical. I quietly retreated, sat downstairs for 2 hours, and only went upstairs after Sophia left. Ethan asked casually, "Why are you back so late?" I said, "There was something at the company." From that day on, I knew this marriage had come to an end. Ethan started working overtime frequently, coming home later and later. Sometimes I could smell unfamiliar perfume on him, sometimes see lipstick marks on his clothes. But I said nothing. I started looking for a job again, quietly moving my things out one by one. I also did another thing, began investigating the Ning Group's accounts. As Ethan's wife, I had access to many of the company's internal documents. Those seemingly normal investment projects, those inexplicable fund flows, I recorded them all one by one. I discovered a shocking secret. Bride and groom exchange rings. The MC's voice pulled me back to reality. On stage, Ethan was putting the ring on Sophia. That diamond ring worth 3 million was the witness to their love. Unfortunately, the money for this ring came from illicit sources. I raised my phone and sent a message to Jason, "You can proceed." Jason was the lawyer I met after resuming work, and my partner in collecting evidence over the past 6 months. He had said that to bring down the Ning Group, we needed solid evidence and the right timing. And today was the best opportunity. The wedding reached its most exciting part, with Ethan about to kiss the bride, when suddenly there was a commotion outside the door. "Police! Nobody move!" A dozen police officers rushed into the wedding venue, the leading officer heading straight to the stage. "Ethan, you are suspected of commercial fraud and embezzlement of public funds. You are now under arrest according to the law." The scene exploded instantly. Guests panicked, some screamed, some pushed toward the door. Sophia stood stunned on stage, still in the pose awaiting a kiss, her white wedding dress glaring under the lights. Ethan's face turned pale instantly. "No, impossible, you must be mistaken." "Whether it's a mistake will be clear after investigation." The officer showed the arrest warrant. "Please cooperate with our work." I quietly watched the chaos on stage, feeling unusually calm. 3 years of marriage, 6 months of preparation, today was finally the time to close the net. The moment Ethan was handcuffed, his gaze swept across the room and suddenly fixed on me. His eyes held shock, disbelief, and a trace of fear. I smiled slightly at him, raising the champagne glass in my hand in a distant toast. This was my wedding gift to him. After Ethan was taken away, the wedding site was in chaos. Sophia cried messily, her white wedding dress covered in tears and snot. The Ning family relatives looked at each other, unsure what to do. I slowly stood up, preparing to leave. "Grace!" Sophia's voice came from behind. She stumbled after me in high heels. "Was it you? Did you call the police?" I turned to look at her. Sophia was indeed very beautiful, a standard beauty, no wonder Ethan couldn't forget her. But at this moment, her makeup was ruined from crying, making her look somewhat disheveled. "Miss Sophia, that's a strange thing to say." "Why would I call the police?" "Because you're jealous." Sophia pointed at me with red eyes. "You're jealous that Ethan loves me, not you." I couldn't help but laugh. "Miss Sophia, you've got one thing wrong." "What?" "I've never been jealous of you." I looked into her eyes and said word by word, "Because a man with a wife isn't worth any woman's jealousy." Sophia was stunned. I continued, "Also, Ethan and I divorced long ago. The divorce certificate from the Civil Affairs Bureau 2 months ago can prove it. So strictly speaking, today is your wedding to a single man. I'm just here to watch the show." "Impossible!" Sophia screamed. "Ethan said you're still processing the divorce, that you refused to sign." I took out my phone from my bag and showed her a photo. It was a picture of Ethan and me at the Civil Affairs Bureau entrance, timestamped 2 months ago. "See clearly? This is our divorce commemorative photo." Sophia looked at the photo, her face growing paler. I put away my phone. "Miss Sophia, I advise you to think about what to do next. Ethan's case is serious, he might be in prison for a long time. Whether you wait for him or find someone else, think it through yourself." With that, I turned to leave. "Wait." Sophia suddenly grabbed my arm. "What exactly do you know? Why was Ethan arrested?" I looked at her tense expression, suddenly curious. "Miss Sophia, do you really know nothing?" "What do you mean?" "The Ning Group's projects over the past 2 years have many unclear fund destinations. For example, last year's overseas investment project showed 50 million on the books, but only 30 million actually arrived. Where did those 20 million go? Do you really not know?" Sophia's face turned pale instantly. I continued, "Also, that villa worth 20 million under your name, and the art studio you opened, where did the startup funds come from?" I don't know what you're talking about." Sophia let go of my hand. "It doesn't matter if you don't know." I adjusted my clothes. "The police will figure it out anyway. Then, those who should go to prison will, and those who should compensate will." I walked to the door, glanced back. Sophia still stood there, her face as pale as her wedding dress. Walking out of the hotel, Jason was already waiting at the door. He wore a dark gray suit, looking steady and reliable. "All set?" he asked. "Yes." I got into his car. "Have all the evidence been handed over to the police?" "They've been handed over. The Ning Group can't escape this time. The embezzled amount is huge, and it involves overseas money laundering. Ethan will be sentenced to at least 10 years or more." I nodded, suddenly feeling empty inside. After preparing for so long, it finally succeeded, but I didn't feel the expected satisfaction. "Regret it?" Jason noticed my mood. "No." I shook my head. "Just feeling a bit tired." Jason started the car. "Where do you want to go?" "I'll take you." I thought for a moment. "To the riverside. I want some fresh air." The car drove through the night, neon lights flashing by outside the window. I leaned back in the seat, memories of meeting Ethan and getting married flooding my mind. We met at a friend's birthday party. At that time, I had just graduated from university and was interning at a design company. Ethan was in a suit, elegant and graceful, the prince charming in every girl's heart. He proactively asked for my contact information and began a frantic pursuit. Flowers, gifts, candlelight dinners, all the scenes from idol dramas were used by him. I thought I had met true love. When proposing, he knelt on one knee, holding a diamond ring. "Grace, marry me. I will make you the happiest woman in the world." I agreed with tears in my eyes. In the first 2 years after marriage, we were indeed very happy. He was considerate, I was gentle and virtuous. We traveled together, planned the future, even discussed how many children to have. I thought this was the life I wanted. Until Sophia returned. Actually, during our dating, Ethan had mentioned Sophia to me. He said she was his first love, a very special girl, but it was in the past. I naively thought the past was truly over. I was wrong. Some people, even after leaving for 10 years, can make a man forget his wife with just one look. The car stopped by the river. I got out and walked to the railing. The river flowed quietly in the night, the distant city lights brilliant. "Have you thought about revenge?" Jason came to my side. I shook my head, "No. I just want a resolution." "What resolution?" "Make them pay the price." I looked into the distance. Ethan thought he could have it both ways, with a virtuous wife at home and a lover outside. Sophia thought she could steal love and destroy someone's marriage. They were both wrong. Jason nodded. "Now they've learned their lesson." Yes. I took a deep breath. From today, I can finally start anew. 51 The next morning, I was woken by a phone call. It was Ethan's mother, Margaret. She cried breathlessly on the phone, "Grace, come help Ethan quickly. He's detained in the detention center for some commercial fraud. It must be a misunderstanding." I rubbed my temples. "Margaret, Ethan and I are already divorced." "What? Divorced? Impossible." Margaret's voice suddenly rose. "Ethan clearly said you were just temporarily separated." I sighed helplessly. "Margaret, I can send you a photo of the divorce certificate. We completed all procedures 2 months ago." The other end was silent for a moment, then came louder crying, "This rotten kid, how many things has he hidden from us? Grace, no matter what, you've been husband and wife for 3 years, please pity your aunt and help Ethan." "Margaret, it's not that I won't help, I really can't." I tried to explain, "This case involves a huge amount, and moreover." "And what?" I said, "The reporter is me." The other end went completely silent. After a long time, Margaret asked in a trembling voice, "Grace, what did you say?" I said, "The person who reported Ethan's commercial fraud is me." My voice was calm. "Over the past 6 months, I've collected enough evidence to prove that the Ning Group embezzled client funds for illegal investments. Yesterday, I handed all the evidence to the police." Are you crazy? He's your husband." "Ex-husband." I corrected her. "And an unfaithful ex-husband." Margaret started cursing on the phone, saying things like venomous heart, repaying kindness with enmity. I listened quietly without retorting. Finally, she tired, her voice turning pleading, "Grace, can you withdraw the lawsuit? Our family can give you anything, house, car, money, whatever you want." "Margaret, you've got one thing wrong." I interrupted her. "This isn't a civil dispute, it's not something I can withdraw if I want. It's a criminal case, the state is prosecuting Ethan, not me." With that, I hung up. The phone rang again soon, this time it was Ethan's father, Edward. His tone was calmer than Margaret's but still full of anger. "Grace, no matter what grievances you have with Ethan, you can't destroy him like this." "Edward, you seem to have it backward." I sat up. "It's not me destroying him, he destroyed himself." "What do you mean?" "Embezzling company funds to buy houses and cars for his mistress, is that what you taught him?" I asked directly. Edward was silent. I continued, the 30 million overseas investment project actually only invested 10 million, with the remaining 20 million used to open Sophia's art studio. Did you know about this? How do you know this? Because I'm your son's wife, the image spokesperson for the Ning Group. I've been involved in many contracts, seen many accounts. My voice grew colder. What do you think a woman should do when she discovers her husband not only cheated but also embezzled company funds for his mistress's lavish lifestyle? Edward was silent for a long time, finally saying only, "Our Ning family has wronged you." Then he hung up. I put down the phone, got up to wash. Today I still had to go to work, life must go on. At the company, I noticed colleagues looking at me strangely. Yesterday's news of Ethan's arrest had gone viral, Ning Group heir arrested at wedding becoming headlines in major media. "Grace, is that Ethan really your ex-husband?" Lily came over gossiping. I nodded, yes. "Oh my God. How are you so calm? If it were me, I'd cry to death." I smiled without speaking. If she knew I was the reporter, she'd be even more shocked. At noon, Jason messaged me saying Ethan wanted to see me. I replied, "No. Jason, he says he has something important to tell you." I thought about it and finally agreed. Not because I still had feelings for Ethan, but because I wanted to hear what tricks he could come up with. After work in the afternoon, I went to the detention center with Jason. Through the glass, I saw Ethan. In just one day, he looked much more haggard. His previously meticulously groomed hair was now messy, his eyes bloodshot. He picked up the phone, his voice hoarse. "Grace, it was you, right?" I picked up the phone too. "What was me?" "The person who reported me, it was you." He wasn't asking but confirming. I nodded, "It was me." Ethan closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "Why?" "You tell me why?" I countered. "Because of Sophia?" I shook my head, "Not entirely." "Then what is it?" I looked into his eyes. "Because you made me see one thing clearly." "What thing?" "It turns out love is so fragile." My voice was calm. 3 years of marriage, worthless in front of your first love. Ethan panicked. "No, Grace, I to you." "What about me?" I interrupted him. "You have feelings for me, so you act as husband and wife with me while buying houses and cars for another woman?" He opened his mouth but couldn't speak. I continued, "Ethan, do you know what I hate most? Not your infidelity, but your hypocrisy. If you really didn't love me anymore, you could have directly proposed divorce. But you didn't, you chose to have your cake and eat it too. You wanted me as your virtuous wife and Sophia as your lover. You thought you could have both. You were wrong." I stood up. A greedy person will ultimately lose everything. Ethan looked at me, his eyes filled with pain, regret, and a plea. "Grace, can you forgive me?" I looked at him and gently shook my head. "Ethan, some mistakes are unforgivable." With that, I turned and left. Behind me came Ethan's shouts, "Grace! Grace!" I didn't look back. A month later, Ethan was formally prosecuted. The prosecutor's indictment was over 10 pages long, detailing his various charges: embezzlement, commercial fraud, money laundering, and so on. Sophia didn't escape either. She was identified as an accomplice and also faced criminal prosecution. That afternoon, I was drawing design sketches in the office when Assistant Lily rushed in. "Sister Grace, someone downstairs is looking for you." "Who?" "Sophia." I was stunned. Why would Sophia come to my company? She should be busy dealing with lawyers and police now. I went downstairs to the lobby and indeed saw Sophia. She no longer had the glamorous look from the wedding, now she looked utterly haggard. "Grace, can we talk?" Her voice was soft. I nodded and took her to a nearby cafe. Sophia ordered a coffee but didn't drink it. She stared at the cup, silent for a long time before speaking. "Grace, I want to ask you a question." "What question?" "When did you start planning all this?" I stirred my coffee. "From the day I discovered you two together." Don't you hate me? Sophia looked up at me. I stole your husband. I shook my head. I don't hate you. Why? Because it's unnecessary. I looked at her. Sophia, do you know? A man who truly loves you can't be stolen by anyone. Since Ethan could be stolen by you, it means he never belonged to me. Sophia lowered her head. Then why did you report to the police? Because he broke the law. My voice was calm. If it was just infidelity, I'd at most divorce him. But using company money to buy you houses and cars, that's a crime. But I didn't know the money source was improper. Sophia explained hurriedly. I smiled. Sophia, do you really not know? Her face changed. I continued, an artist just returned to the country. How could you afford a 20 million luxury car? How could you live in a 30 million villa? Your studio's startup fund was 8 million. Where did this money come from? Don't you have any idea? Sophia was silent. I've investigated you. I set down my coffee cup. When you were abroad, your life was tight, you often worked part-time to make ends meet. Before returning, your bank account had less than 100,000 yuan. But a month after returning, you bought luxury cars and mansions. The source of this money, have you really never suspected? Sophia's hands trembled. I thought it was Ethan's own money. His own money? I sneered. Ethan's annual salary at the company is 5 million, after taxes and daily expenses, he could save at most 2 million. But the money he spent on you exceeded 30 million. Do you think that number is reasonable? Sophia was completely speechless. I looked at her, suddenly feeling some pity. Sophia, I know you love Ethan. But have you thought that a man who truly loves you wouldn't let you bear the risk of crime? What do you mean? That villa, that luxury car, and your studio, the owners are all you. If something happens, the responsibility is all yours. I reminded her. Now Ethan is arrested, but he can claim he was coerced by you, saying you knew the money source was improper but still demanded it. Then, you'd go from accomplice to principal offender. Sophia's face turned pale. No, Ethan wouldn't do that to me. Are you sure? I took out my phone and showed her a news article. This is this morning's report. Ethan's lawyer has submitted new defense materials, claiming Ethan was coerced into embezzling company funds. Guess who coerced him? Sophia looked at the news, her whole body trembling. I put away my phone. Sophia, I advise you to find a good lawyer quickly. Because next, you might face not just 3 years in prison, but over 10. With that, I stood to leave. Wait. Sophia suddenly grabbed my hand. Grace, please help me. I looked at her. Why should I help you? Because I know I was wrong. Sophia's tears flowed. I shouldn't have destroyed your marriage, I shouldn't have been with Ethan. Knowing you're wrong now, is it useful? Please, as long as you help me, I'll do anything. I looked at her desperate appearance, feeling no ripple in my heart. Half a year ago, when she took my husband, did she ever think of my feelings? Sophia, I'll say it again, I don't hate you. I pulled back my hand. But I won't help you either. You did wrong, so bear the consequences. That's fair. With that, I turned and left the cafe. Behind me came Sophia's cries, but I didn't look back. Some paths are chosen by herself. Since she chose to destroy someone's marriage, she must be prepared to bear all consequences. 2 months later, the court heard Ethan's case. As a key witness, I had to testify. This was the first time I saw Ethan after our divorce. In court, Ethan wore prison clothes, looking more haggard than last time. When I entered the courtroom, he stared at me, his eyes full of complex emotions. The prosecutor asked me to confirm the authenticity of those financial evidences. I confirmed them one by one, my voice calm and clear. Witness, how did you obtain these internal financial documents? Ethan's lawyer began questioning. I was Ethan's wife, often involved in the company's business activities. Accessing these documents was normal. I answered. But you've divorced, why did you keep these documents? I glanced at Ethan, because I discovered anomalies. As a citizen, I have the duty to report illegal crimes to the relevant authorities. Ethan's lawyer wanted to continue entanglement, but was stopped by the judge. When it was Sophia's turn, she looked even worse. 2 months of detention had completely stripped her of her former glamour. Her hair was messy, eyes red and swollen. The key point was her lawyer proposing a new defense. Sophia didn't know the money source was improper, she was a victim deceived by Ethan. This point surprised Sophia. She looked at Ethan, her eyes full of disbelief. Ethan avoided her gaze. The prosecutor presented new evidence on the spot, Sophia's phone chat records. Your Honor, these are chat records recovered from Sophia's phone. The prosecutor said. The records show Sophia repeatedly demanded more funds from Ethan and clearly knew these funds came from company accounts. The chat records were projected on the courtroom's big screen for all to see. Sophia, Ethan, the studio needs another $2 million for renovation. Ethan, the company is checking strictly lately, not convenient. Sophia, then think of a way, I just need this bit of money. Ethan, okay, I'll think of a way to divert some from project funds. Sophia, you're so good, love you to death. There were more similar chat records, clearly showing Sophia knew the money source and even actively demanded Ethan embezzle company funds. Sophia looked at these records, her face pale. She turned to Ethan, her eyes filled with anger, despair, and deep betrayal. Ethan, why are you doing this to me? She shouted uncontrollably in court. Ethan still didn't dare look at her. The judge banged the gavel. Please control your emotions, defendant. The entire trial lasted a day. I attended throughout. Watching my former husband and his lover shift blame in court, I felt only calm. Is this their love? In times of crisis, they immediately turn against each other, eager to trample the other underfoot. After the trial, I met Jason at the court entrance. How do you feel? He asked. Very calm. I replied. Like watching a play. No regrets? I shook my head, no regrets. Some accounts must be settled. Jason nodded, the verdict should come soon. Based on the evidence, Ethan will get at least 12 years, Sophia 8. Yes. I looked at the court building. From today, this matter is completely over. A month later, the judgment came down. Ethan was sentenced to 15 years in prison, Sophia to 10. Both appealed, but were rejected. Margaret called me several more times, crying and begging me to think of a way. I refused each time. Grace, are you really so heartless? Margaret cried on the phone. Ethan was your husband after all, you had 3 years of feelings. Do you really not care about old affections? Margaret, feelings are mutual. I said calmly. When Ethan chose to betray me, our feelings ended. But everyone makes mistakes, why not give him a chance to reform? Because some mistakes cost too much. I said. If it was just ordinary marital betrayal, I'd at most divorce him. But he embezzled company funds, harming investors' interests. This isn't a simple emotional issue, it's a crime. Margaret was silent. I continued, moreover, do you think a man who can embezzle tens of millions for a mistress is really worth forgiving? Today he does it for Sophia, tomorrow for another woman. With that, I hung up and blocked all the Ning family's contacts. 6 months later, my life was completely back on track. At work, I was promoted to design department supervisor, responsible for the company's most important projects. In life, I moved to an apartment in the city center, starting a brand new single life. Most importantly, I rediscovered my love for life. When with Ethan before, I put all my energy into managing the marriage. I learned cooking, flower arranging, various skills, just to be a perfect wife. Now I realize I have so many personal interests. I started painting again, learning photography, and enrolled in a yoga class. That evening, I was painting at home when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, it was Jason. So late, what's up? I opened the door and asked. Jason held a bottle of red wine, to celebrate. Celebrate what? The Ning Group has gone bankrupt, he said. Today the court auctioned all the company's assets to compensate investors' losses. I was stunned, then smiled. This is indeed worth celebrating. I let Jason in and poured 2 glasses of red wine. Speaking of which, the Ning Group's collapse is largely thanks to you. Jason raised his glass. Without the evidence you provided, the police couldn't have uncovered their crimes so quickly. I shook my head. It's not my credit, they brought it upon themselves. Grace, I've always wanted to ask you a question. Jason looked at me. Have you regretted it? Regretted what? Regretted marrying Ethan, regretted wasting 3 years. I thought, without these 3 years, I might never know how strong I am. Jason smiled. That's true. We chatted a lot, from the case to work, from work to life. Before we knew it, it was late night. I should go. Jason stood. Wait. I stopped him. Jason, thank you. For what? Thank you for helping me out of the gloom and starting over. I looked at him. Without you, I might still be trapped in hatred. Jason looked at me, his eyes holding emotions I couldn't read. Grace, What's wrong? He opened his mouth, finally saying only, nothing. It's late, rest early. With that, he left. I watched his back, feeling some doubt. In that moment, I seemed to see something in his eyes, but couldn't say what. The next day at work, I met the company's gossip queen Lily in the elevator. Sister Grace, did you know? The Ning Group has completely collapsed. She said excitedly. Yes, I know. I heard Ethan's parents now live in an old house, and Margaret even went out to work. Lily looked gleeful. Really, fortunes change. I didn't respond. Though I had no fondness for the Ning family, seeing a once glorious family reduced to this still evoked some sigh. By the way, Sister Grace, have you considered finding another? Lily asked suddenly. Find what? A boyfriend. You're so excellent, many must be pursuing you. I smiled. No plans for now. Why? Still thinking of Ethan? I shook my head. No. Just feel being alone is pretty good now. The elevator arrived. I walked out. Lily shouted behind, Sister Grace, don't pressure yourself. Love comes naturally. Naturally? I thought of Jason's hesitant look last night, feeling complex. Jason is a good man. Over the past 6 months, he's given me much help and support. If I say I have no feelings for him, that's false. But I'm not ready for a new relationship. After Ethan's betrayal, I deeply doubt love. I'm unsure if I can love someone again or dare trust another's love. Perhaps I need more time to heal. In the spring a year later, I received unexpected news. Ethan wrote me a letter from prison. It was forwarded through a lawyer, thick pages with familiar handwriting. I held the letter, hesitated long, but decided to see what he said. The letter was long, mostly apologies and repentance. He said he regretted betraying me, regretted those wrongs. He said he now understands I was the one who truly loved him, Sophia just coveted his money. At the end, he wrote, Grace, I know I have no right to ask forgiveness. But if possible, please wait for me. When I'm out, I'll compensate you well, pursue you again. I swear, I'll never betray you. Reading this, I felt only absurdity. Ethan still doesn't understand. I reported him not out of jealousy or revenge, but because he broke the law. Moreover, why does he think I'd wait? Why think I still love him? I tore the letter and threw it in the trash. Some people never truly change. They only regret and reflect after losing everything. But such regret is often just because of the loss, not true realization of error. If Ethan truly loved me, he wouldn't betray me when Sophia returned. If he respected me, he wouldn't use this condescending tone to ask me to wait. That afternoon, Jason came to my office. Heard Ethan wrote you? He asked. Yes. I nodded. But I threw it away. Not curious what he said? Nothing to be curious about. I set down the file. Just apologies, regrets, asking me to wait, etc. Jason sat. What do you think? What can I think? I smiled. Jason, do you think I'm the type to wait over 10 years for a man who betrayed me? Of course not. He smiled too. I just worry you'll soften. I won't. I shook my head. My feelings for Ethan died the moment I discovered his affair. Now, he's just a stranger to me. Jason nodded, then said, Grace, I have something to tell you. What? I'm transferring to the Shanghai branch. I was stunned. When? Next month. He looked at me. The company gave me a great opportunity, I don't want to miss it. I suddenly felt empty, then, congratulations. Grace. Jason suddenly looked seriously at me. Come to Shanghai with me. I looked at him in surprise. What? I like you. He said directly. From our first meeting, I liked you. This year, watching you emerge from pain, become strong again, I've confirmed my feelings more. I looked at him, my heartbeat quickening. Jason continued, I know you're not ready for a new relationship, I'm not rushing. I just hope you give us a chance. I was silent long, finally saying, Jason, I need time to think. I can wait. He said. But I hope you consider seriously. Grace, you deserve better love. That night, I thought alone at home for a long time. Jason is a good man, this year, he's given me much help and care. If I say I have no feelings, that's false. But am I really ready? I walked to the balcony, looking at the city in the night. Lights brilliant, traffic bustling, life continuing. Perhaps I should give myself a chance, and Jason too. Let the past go, I can't forever distrust love because of Ethan's betrayal. The next day, I sought Jason. I've thought it through. I said. I'm willing to try. Jason's face showed a long absent smile. Really? Really? I nodded. But I have one condition. What? We take it slow, no rush. Of course. Jason held my hand. We have plenty of time. 3 months later, Jason and I went to Shanghai. New city, new job, new start. I joined a renowned design company in Shanghai. Jason had good development at a law firm. We rented an apartment in the city center, starting cohabitation. At first, I was tense. After all, this was my first relationship after divorce, I wasn't sure if I could truly invest. But Jason was patient, he didn't urge or force, just silently accompanied me. Gradually, I began to feel what true love is. Jason remembered everything I liked, sent me late-night snacks when I worked overtime, quietly accompanied me when I was in a bad mood. Most importantly, he respected and understood me, never forcing me for his needs. This feeling was something I never had with Ethan. With Ethan, I always accommodated him, changed myself to fit him. I thought that was love, that marriage was like that. Now I know true love should be mutual, making each other better. Today was our 6-month anniversary. Jason prepared a small surprise. Close your eyes. He said. I did, feeling him lead me to the balcony. Okay, open them. I opened my eyes to see the balcony filled with flowers, a small table with candlelight dinner. Jason, you. I was touched. Like it? He asked. Yes. I nodded. We sat, eating and chatting. Shanghai's night view unfolded below, beautiful like a painting. Grace, I want to ask a question. Jason said suddenly. What? Do you still think of Ethan? I thought, occasionally, but no special feeling. Like recalling a classmate not seen for long. Jason smiled, good. Why ask? Because I want to confirm he has no place in your heart. Jason looked at me. Grace, I want to marry you. I looked surprised. Marry? Yes. He took out a ring box. "Grace, will you marry me?" I looked at the diamond ring, complex emotions surging. The last proposal was 3 years ago from Ethan. Then I thought I found true love, would grow old with him. In the end, all illusion. Now Jason proposes, what should I do? Am I ready to enter marriage again? Jason, I hesitated. "What are you worried about?" he asked. "I'm worried history will repeat." I voiced my fear. "I'm worried you'll betray me like Ethan." Jason set down the ring box, held my hand. "Grace, I know Ethan's betrayal shadowed you. But believe, not all men are like him. I know you're different." I said. "But I thought Ethan would love me forever too." "Grace, listen." Jason looked seriously. "Love has risks, no one can guarantee a relationship lasts forever. But if you reject love from fear of hurt, you'll never get true happiness." I was silent. He continued, "I can't guarantee we'll grow old together, but I can guarantee that as long as we're together one day, I'll love you wholeheartedly. I won't betray, deceive, or let you be hurt." I looked at his sincere eyes, my defenses crumbling bit by bit. "Jason, give me time to think, okay?" "Of course." He smiled. "I can wait until you're ready." A month later, I decided. "Jason, I do." That night, I found him and gave the answer. Jason hugged me excitedly. "Really?" "Really." I leaned in his arms. "I've thought it through. You're right, if I reject love from fear of hurt, I'll never get true happiness. Grace, thank you for believing me." "No, thank you for waiting." We hugged. I felt unprecedented security. With Ethan, I was always anxious, worrying if he'd stop loving me. But with Jason, I feel solid, at ease. We started preparing the wedding, deciding on a simple ceremony in Shanghai, inviting only closest friends and family. The day we sent invitations, I got an unexpected call from Ethan's mother, Margaret. "Grace, heard you're getting married?" Her voice sounded tired. "Yes." I didn't deny. "Is it that lawyer?" "Yes." Margaret was silent, then said, "Grace, I want to ask one thing." "What?" "Ethan, he heard in prison you're marrying, he's collapsed. Doctor says he has depressive tendencies, I worry he'll do something foolish." I frowned. "Margaret, what do you want me to do? Can you see him?" "For the sake of our past mother-in-law-daughter-in-law relation, see him last time, let him give up completely." I hesitated. "Margaret, I think it's unnecessary." "Please, Grace." Margaret cried on the phone. "I know our family wronged you, but Ethan is my son, I can't watch him have an accident." I looked at Jason beside, checking invitation designs. "Okay." I finally agreed. "But this is the last time." 3 days later, I went to the prison again. Through the glass, I saw Ethan. 2 years of prison life made him more haggard, hair graying, looking listless. "Grace, you came." He picked up the phone, voice soft. "I heard you're unwell." I picked up too. "It's fine, won't die." He bitter smiled. "Heard you're marrying?" "Yes." "That lawyer?" "Yes." Ethan was silent long, then said, "He's a good man." "I know." "Grace, I want to ask one last question." Ethan looked into my eyes. "Do you hate me?" I thought, not anymore. "Why?" "Because hating someone is too tiring." I said calmly. "Moreover, without your betrayal, I might never meet true love." Ethan closed his eyes, took a deep breath. "Grace, sorry. The past is past." I stood. "Ethan, reform well, start anew. You're young, after release, you have chances to restart." "And you? Are you happy?" I smiled, very happy. With that, I turned and left. This time I really won't look back. Out of prison, Jason waited at the door. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Very light." I linked his arm. Like putting down a heavy burden. Good. He kissed my forehead. From today, we only look to the future. A month later, Jason and I held our wedding. Simple but warm. We invited closest friends and family, held the ceremony at a hotel by the Huangpu River. Unlike the luxurious wedding 3 years ago, this one was simple but every detail full of love. Jason designed invitations himself, I made wedding candies by hand. Friends said they'd never seen such loving newlyweds. At the wedding, Jason said, "Grace, thank you for giving me the chance to be your husband. I promise to love you, protect you with my life, make you the happiest woman." I said with tears, "Jason, thank you for appearing in my life, letting me believe in love again. I promise to love you wholeheartedly, walk every stage of life hand in hand." Applause thundered below, friends were moved. After the wedding, we honeymooned in the Maldives. Lying on white beaches, watching blue waters, I felt reborn. Thinking what? Jason asked beside me. Thinking of these years' experiences. I said. If someone told me I'd go through divorce, revenge, remarriage, I wouldn't believe. Regret? I shook my head, no. Though painful, the result is good. Grace, I want to tell you something. Jason suddenly serious. What? Actually, our first meeting wasn't on that case. I looked surprised. What do you mean? Remember your wedding with Ethan? I was there too. Jason said. I was a friend of a friend of a friend, barely qualified. I tried recalling the wedding 3 years ago, but too many guests, I couldn't remember. Jason continued, that day seeing you, I was attracted. You in white wedding dress, smiling sweetly, happily. I thought, the man making you smile like that must be happy. Then I remembered you. He said. So when you came for help, I recognized you at once. I was stunned. You mean, helping me wasn't just for work? Of course not just. Jason looked into my eyes. Though I didn't know what would happen, I just wanted to help. Warmth surged in my heart. Jason, you. I know it sounds strange, but it's fact. He held my hand. Perhaps it's fate. Fate let me see you at your happiest, then appear when you needed help most. I looked at him, heart full of emotion. So from the beginning, he was silently watching. In my darkest time, a light was waiting. Jason, thank you. I said. No need. He kissed my hand. Being able to love you is my luck. The sea breeze blew gently, I closed my eyes, enjoying this hard-won happiness. Past pain is gone, future beauty awaits. I recalled Ethan's words, he'd make me the happiest woman. Now I say, what he didn't do, Jason did. Some people talk much, do little. Some silently prove with actions. I'm glad I chose the latter. Sunset, Jason and I hand in hand on the beach, leaving footprints. This is my story. About betrayal, revenge, rebirth, and love. Though twisted, the ending is beautiful. I finally understand, sometimes loss is for better gain. Sometimes pain is for deeper happiness. Life is like that, learning to cherish in loss, strengthen in pain. Now I am more mature, independent than 3 years ago, better understanding true love. I think that's enough.